Hey, Mike.
Hey Lee,
Good to
how's it
see
going?
you.
Good to see you, man.
For those that don't know, this is Mike Rosenfeld, Coach Mike. I'm Lee Humphrey. And Mike, talking to you a little bit about today. So I've personally worked with you for quite a while now, a couple of years, and you've worked with a lot of other people. You've worked with athletes, NFL players, boxers, Olympic athletes, CEOs of large companies. So it's always impressive what you've accomplished. And, question for you. So you start working with someone. They actually are able to move forward in their life, they're having progress, but they get to the point where they start to feel anxiety. Maybe they're stuck, they want more out of their life, but they're just not sure how to do it, and not just more for themselves, but more success, but also more personal fulfillment. So when this happens, and let's say you start working with them, how would you help them move from this place of uncertainty?
Well, first and foremost, each and every one of us gets to that place of uncertainty. You know, we start to think that our lives are always supposed to be amazing. So if you can imagine for a second, like there's this graph, a chart, and on the bottom of the chart it says, I suck. Because we've all felt like we've sucked before, right? And then above I suck is, I'm bad. And then above I'm bad, it's, I'm okay. And then above I'm okay, it's like, I'm good. And then above I'm good, it's, I'm amazing, right?
Okay.
So we climb up that ladder until we feel amazing. And then it feels as if sometimes something happens and we regress, we fall back down, right?
Got it.
But we truly don't regress, do we? Like we don't unlearn all the things that we've learned. Like the experiences that we've had and the achievements that we had didn't just disappear that we've fallen backwards. What's happened, Lee, is rather than falling back down, we've actually graduated to the next level. And that next level begins with feeling I suck. Because it's new to us. So we're like not understanding like where we are, so we're uncomfortable. So when I begin working with someone, oftentimes they're in that next level where they're feeling stuck, they're not feeling confident, maybe they're having a lot of anxiety around where they are. And all I do is help them realize that the person who you were yesterday might be great, or you may not be happy with that person. But the person who you have the ability to become is going to require a new way of thinking, a new way of feeling, a new way of overcoming challenges and processing information. So that's what I do. I give tools to help people really discover who they can be at their very best.
So that feeling, it's really not always about regressing, because a lot of times that feels a lot like you did well and now you're just not achieving anymore. So that's not really always what that feeling is about. A lot of times it has a lot more to do with plateauing maybe.
Yeah, plateauing is a good term. Or it just, we get satisfied. We get to this place where, we become comfortable. And I mean, we've all heard the term comfort zone. And that comfort zone, although it might feel comfortable in one regard, in another regard it like tugs at us and it pulls at us. And the reason being is because none of us are here to just survive.
Okay.
Each and every one of us are here to thrive, which means to continuously grow and to expand. So when we're in that space that you refer to as a plateau, that's simply an indicator that more is possible, but more is going to be required. So we can stay in that comfort zone and just be comfortable, or we can begin to really tap in and begin to develop ourselves and grow ourselves and learn new tools and techniques to get into our brilliant zone.
And we've chatted before about how what it takes to get to where you're at today is not what it's going to take to get further ahead and where you want to go, which makes sense. If you plateaued, so to speak, then I guess it kind of got you to just about as far as that skill set can go. So when you're working with someone and you identify that's what's going on, what steps do you take? What do you work through? What's your process when doing that?
Yeah. So I'm going to take a step back, all right?
Sure.
Okay. So I will never be as good at being you as you can be at being yourself.
I would hope so.
We will never be as good at being someone else as we can be at being ourselves. So rather than trying to be someone I'm not, the key is to discover who I am. And if I am today who I was yesterday, shame on me because I haven't grown and I'll never be fulfilled. So the idea, to answer your question, is to really help people tune into what's important to them. What's their unique recipe for their highest level of success? And from there, begin to coach and teach certain tools and principles that allow them to shed the comfort that they're currently experiencing and develop into so much more.
So that's really interesting when you're talking about not being the same person. You can't be me better than I can be me. I hope not, at least. So that being the case, what caused us to do that? Why would I suddenly want to be somebody else? Is it a gradual process over time, do you think? Is it something that just happens one day?
It's a great question. I'd say that from the time a child is born in America to the time they've turned 5 years old, on average, they've been told no or don't do that thousands of times, 5,000 times according to this particular study.
I was probably more like 6. But.
Maybe. But imagine, like, you have a great idea, and you're really excited about doing it, and then the people who you look up to, your parents, your friends, your older siblings, are like, Lee, no, don't do that. Over a period of time, it begins to make you feel like, what? Why can't I get this done? Like, why is it everything I want to do gets shut down, right? So ultimately, like, we have these images on TV that sort of represent who we should strive to become. Be like Mike, Chanel, like all these different brands that are promoting these models and athletes that look great, that are performing at high levels. So ultimately, it's like, that's who I want to be. And then we're surrounding ourselves with people who might be resembling those people, perhaps at a smaller level. So I'm constantly in comparison to the people around me. So think of like the first day of school. As a young child, you walk into school, you're really nervous, right?
Yeah.
And you're looking at all the cool kids hanging out in the corner, and
Okay.
it's like, okay, I want to be a part of them. Now, in order to be a part of that crew, I need to be a certain way. And sometimes who we're looking to become is consistent with our core values and the things that are most important or help us be true to ourselves, but oftentimes they're not. And we begin to lose ourselves. And when we lose ourselves, we need to feel a certain level of energy that comes from things that are given through instant gratification. So
Okay.
we're trying to be like someone else. We're not quite succeeding. So we're needing this new hat, or we're needing these new shoes, or something like that. Rather than finding our unique formula for our own personal success, we're trying to emulate someone else.
So for most people, it's gone on for most of their lives.
For sure.
Okay. So how do you take somebody, and let's say that they've pushed through, they've achieved a lot, they've done well, and whatever that level is, so whether they're have started at the beginning, my first job, McDonald's, so you start up from there, and wherever you hit at that point, whatever part of your life, and you start talking to them, and if that, and I completely agree, I mean, it's one of my issues along with most people in society. So at that point, like 20, 30, 40, 50 years of trying to be somebody else, what do you do when you work with them to try to unwind that or shift over to that?
It's pretty simple. It's very simple. If
It's 40 years of work, Mike, so that's a lot to be simple to undo.
Yeah, well, I didn't say it was easy.
Okay.
Okay, I said it was simple. And the reason it's simple is because each and every one of us has like this narrative that goes on within our own heads, right? In our own minds. This narrative, let's call that our conscious thoughts, or sometimes our unconscious thoughts, are always supporting whatever our belief system is about ourselves. Can I tell you a quick story?
Yeah, go for it.
So I remember being 4 years old, and I had a migraine headache, and I'm like knocking ferociously on my parents' door, crying hysterically, and I'm just like, Mom, Dad, please, open the door, open the door. I need your help. And I sat there knocking and knocking and knocking, and I know they heard me, but they didn't answer. And in that moment, I had this feeling that just overtook me. And I didn't have the words for it back then, but if I can give words to it now, the feeling was, I must not be important. So from a very early age, I started to believe I'm not important. And because I started to believe I'm not important, the way the brain works is whatever we believe, we begin to filter out things that are inconsistent with that belief system. And we begin to pull in things that support that belief system. So I would raise my hand in class, Lee, wanting my teacher to call on me. They wouldn't call on me. That must mean that she doesn't think I'm important. Or I would be hanging out with my friends and talking and not getting the attention that I was looking for. Oh, they must not think I'm important.
Okay.
So over time, I developed this massive belief that I'm not important, and I would only receive information that supports that belief. So what I would try to do is prove to the world that I'm important. But the more I tried, the more I turned people off because nobody likes a show off. So then I began to isolate. And when I isolated, I got into addiction and different types of unhealthy behaviors. But I was looking for attention. I wasn't intentionally looking for attention, but I was subconsciously looking for attention. And I didn't get it. So I went through 13 years of really, really hard addiction, almost losing my life. Bringing it back to your question, you have 40 years of certain patterns that you've been through. How do you shift it? Here's how you do it. You get clear of who you really are. And that's a process that I take people through. I don't know who you really are, but there's ways of really being able to make a distinction between this is who I am and this is who I think I should be. And when you're able to feel the difference of being who you really are versus who you think you should be, who you should be will always feel heavier. There will always be judgment in that person. But when you connect to who you really are, you feel a level of freedom. So now what we do is we begin to create a vision of what our success looks like at being who we truly are. And then that's where all the tools come in to be able to shift the patterns of thinking, cope with certain emotions that get triggered, and really step into being who we are. So it's not simple. I mean, it is simple. It's not easy, but it's extremely doable. But it's less difficult than remaining the same.
So it's kind of like losing weight. It's a simple process. Eat enough calories, have enough physical activity, but the actual process of it can be very difficult. So that makes a lot of sense. It's
totally. And I'm glad you said that because a lot of people know that in order to be happy, they have to work harder. They have to focus. They have to see things from a new perspective. We all know certain things need to get done. We just don't know how to do it. Like I know in order for me to get into great shape, I need to get up at a certain time, I need to eat a certain way, and I need to work out a certain way. But why aren't I doing it? Well, that's what the work is all about. It's about developing a new mindset that gives you another level of new energy, that helps you create new routines, that allows you to create those results that you're looking for.
So that self-sabotage that we all have gone through.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether it's getting in shape, working out, losing weight, performing at the job, getting a promotion, whatever that is, and we can all probably identify things that we've done. I know I can, where should be at this level, but had you done some things differently, you probably knew it up front. I like to use losing weight as an example just because it's more of a visible thing. And you can go, well, if I just had not eaten that entire pizza, I could have been there. So if we know this in our head, and we actually understand that if I do A, B, and C, I'll get to what I want, why do all of us have a tendency to then just not do that?
There's a lot of reasons. Self-sabotage is a very interesting concept. So why do we self-sabotage? Well, one reason why people self-sabotage is because here I am today, and I want the world to think a certain thing about me, right? So I am portraying myself a certain way. But once I succeed, what happens when the world discovers I'm not as smart as I projected myself to be? I'm not as good as I led people to believe I am. So that's one reason why I see people self-sabotage. It's called imposter syndrome. Another reason why people self-sabotage, I work with champion fighters, right?
Yeah.
And one of them recently said to me, Mike, being a champion is like being in hell. Like, what do you mean it's like being in hell? You just won millions of dollars? It seems like you're driving a beautiful car. You always got a smile on your face. What do you mean it's like being in hell? He goes, listen, Mike, to be a champ is to be on top, sure. But you feel very lonely up there. And not only does it feel lonely up there, you have a bullseye on you. Everyone wants what you have. So to stay on top, it's much harder. You have to work harder. You have to discipline yourself even more. So a lot of people self-sabotage because in the back of their mind, they're like, oh my God, I put in so much work already. For me to even get to that place is going to be difficult. But for me to stay on top, it's going to be even more difficult. Why bother?
And that's got to be an issue, I guess, for high performers, really, where they get to that level and to get there they had to push and push and push, and now they just feel they're on that treadmill trying to run at the top with nowhere left to, no gratification of moving up to the next level. So how do you deal with something like that?
Well, there's always another level. And sometimes the next level is not what we think it might be. Sometimes the next level is just finding a whole new way of experiencing yourself and life that's even more fulfilling. So what happens is when you begin to explore yourself in new ways, it gives you a new jolt of energy that carries over into their occupation, whether it's a fighter or a player, right? So now they have a lot more energy to stay up on top. They have a deeper reason for wanting to be on top. So they're now experiencing themselves in an entirely new experience, which motivates them, energizes them, and gives them a new level of purpose.
So it sounds kind of like if they are high performers, that sometimes the identity that, and I know I've done this before where, work, I'm at this level because my job is here. A lot of times, a lot of other things get left below. And so mentally, it's just the level of where the job is at. But other parts of the life that got left behind, there's a lot of room for growth that's not there.
When you say there's a lot of room for growth that's not there, what do you mean?
That hasn't happened yet. A lot of room for growth that hasn't happened yet. On the personal side, if they feel they plateaued on the work side.
Yeah, so like this goes back to belief systems,
Okay.
right? So if I have a belief system that being in this career, earning X amount of money is all I'll ever get out of life, I may be very successful according to what I once believed success to be. But now I have an opportunity, and this is what I find with a lot of my clients, it's like I'm achieving all this success, but I'm completely unfulfilled. What's going on? And I'm stuck. I don't know how to get out of it. That's our work.
And that can cause anxiety. Okay,
It
interesting.
certainly causes anxiety.
So I've seen your coaching firsthand.
2 years now, baby.
Has been 2 years. It's been an amazing time. And so in my opinion, it is amazingly effective. And it's worked well for me. So what do you think makes your process of what you go through different than, we all see advertisements for fulfill your life in 30 seconds or less. What makes your process different than...
Takes 30 seconds? What kind of advertisement is that? We got this thing down to 10. I'll tell you what makes it different. You see me from the perspective that you're looking at me now, correct? Mm-hmm. But can you imagine what I would look like if you were looking down on me from that perspective? Totally different. Same person, different perspective. And can you imagine what I would look like if you were looking at me from over there?
Okay.
When you're able to orbit around someone or something, you're able to see it from different perspectives. I've dedicated my life to learning different modalities and different ways to help people get unstuck and become unstoppable. So whether it's the breath work, whether it's the NLP, whether it's the cognitive behavior therapy, whether it's NAM therapy and the life coaching principles, everything that I've done throughout my entire life is to help me be able to speak to people in different ways to meet them where they are and offer different opportunities or different tools to get them to where they want to go rather than just being of one discipline.
Got it, okay. And, we were talking earlier, we have spent over 100 hours chatting, you and I, over the last couple of years. And it's kind of funny when you lump that all together and be like, well, that's a lot of time. Yeah. When you're working with someone, so from your side, what kind of an attitude, what are you looking for in that person that makes you think that that's someone you can work with? Is there anything in particular or broad spectrum? And what do you think if they don't have it, what shift do they have to make that would allow them to be successful to move forward?
People who I work with will not sign up with me if they're unwilling to do the work. And the work is not always going to be easy. It's going to require a certain level of commitment, of effort, of listening, and of being challenged. People thrive on those things I just mentioned because they know that those things I just mentioned are the recipe or the secret sauce to getting to another level. So take those qualities in a person, combine them with the coaching and the tools that I have to offer, and you have a world champion.
Awesome.
But that's what it requires.
Well, Mike, it's been great and very informative. Thanks for spending the time with me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
My brother.